Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. It's time to take a look at A Plague Tale: Innocence. David, you're making a game about rats, or where the rats are the star.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Initially, it's really the story about two kids, Alicia and Hugo, which are sisters and brothers. And they will be pushed out of their house at the very beginning of the story, and they will have to flee into France during the Middle Age, ravaged by wars, and, as you mentioned, huge swarms of rats.
Yeah. So what are we seeing here? Is this gameplay or is this the trailer?
It's actually it's the beginning of the chapter 5. It's actually the demo we are showing at the E3 this year.
Okay. So what type of game is this?
It's third-person adventure game, I would say. Yeah,
Okay.
action adventure. Yeah.
And you said chapter 5. So is it stage-based?
Yes.
Okay.
There is around 16 chapters. Sorry.
And what do we need to know about these two siblings?
Actually, at the beginning of the story, they are noble, so they have been kept away from the rest of the world, and something happened. I will not tell too much about it, but they, as I was mentioning, they will very fast being pushed in this world and be chased from the house and hunted by the Inquisition, and they will have to fight both against the rats and the Inquisition.
Yes.
And they will actually discover each other, because at the beginning of the story, Hugo is actually the little brother. Is actually sick, and he has been kept away from his sister. And they will, in their journey through France, they will actually discover each other.
Okay. And then who does the player control?
Amicia.
Okay.
Amicia is the main character.
Is this a single-player game?
It's a single-player game, yeah.
Very cool. And then when and how do the rats come into play?
Actually, the rats is both a key element of the gameplay, but also a key element of the story, obviously. And it's highly connected to the family of those two kids. And the idea in terms of experience is that you will always have to manage light and shadow. In the light, you are protected from the rats.
Ah, okay.
So you will very soon have to use the light in order to progress. But at the same time, with lights, you are much more visible for the Inquisition. So you will always have to manage the fact that you need to progress through the rats with lights, but at the same time, as the Inquisition chased you, you need to get to stay in the shadow at the same time. So it will always be this right balance to find for the player.
So is this set in a realistic world?
I would say grounded.
You say what?
Grounded. It's a grounded world. It's like the goal is not to make an historical game, but we wanted to keep the story as close as the historical facts and what was the Middle Age in France at this age, and to keep the, it was a very crude world and brutal. Yeah. And we wanted, for this, we wanted to stay away from the heroic fantasy style. So yeah, it's realistic but aesthetic. Yeah.
And based on some real historical events or surrounding that?
There is some, I would say, milestone, but again, the goal, it's a tale, Plague's Tale. So, no, the goal is not to make it a historical thing for people to learn more about France history. It's not the plot. It's not the goal, yeah.
Then what was the initial inspiration and the idea for the game?
There is lots of different sources of inspiration, I would say. We were talking before the beginning about the graves of the fireflies. Yeah. Again, it's about this friction between the innocence of two kids and a very brutal world. It's what we are trying to do here. In terms of gameplay, it's something which is close to maybe Resident Evil series, at least the beginning of them. Okay. Also, obviously, Last of Us. And in terms of visual, we have been very impressed by Macbeth, the last movie. Interesting. And the soundtrack of Macbeth also inspired us a lot.
Yeah, even though it's a very gloomy-looking game, it's also very beautiful, I think, very, very eye-catching.
Thank you. Yeah, we have worked a lot in order to make the rats both frightening, but at the same time, all the lighting effect, as you can see there, it needs to be beautiful, and at the same time, it's very important to keep it visually very clear in terms of feedback, because again, within the light, you are protected, outside of the light, you're not. So we've worked a lot on this.
Yeah. So we're finally seeing the rats here, and wow, that's pretty terrifying. To see that swarm of rats coming at you.
Yeah, we can display, I think, 5,000 of rats at the same time. So the goal is to build up this more and more. So it's just the beginning here, chapter 5, but yeah, later in the game there is really seas of rats.
I don't know. I think some people are going to have a hard time playing. Like, it's going to creep them out too much.
I think that's the goal.
It
was really, about...
But you want people to play your game, though.
Sorry?
You want people to play your game, though. You don't want to. Don't want to scare them away.
Yeah. Again, the idea is really, to play with this friction between two kids, which are innocent and fragile, weak, and put in front of them this sort of organical sea of demons, which are the rats.
Well, you're tapping into something that's like at the core of pretty much every human. I mean, everyone is just really creeped out by rats, like universally.
Exactly, yeah.
And so you're saying, well, here's a game with that's sending swarms of rats at you.
We will play on these feelings, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got this mechanic where in the light, you're safe from the rats. I don't know if we're going to see that here, but what happens? What happens if the rats get to you?
As you can guess, you will be eaten. Yeah.
These children will be eaten by rats.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's shocking.
It's messed up, man.
But it's the idea.
Okay.
They will also have to use the rats because again it's two kids, so they are not very strong, and their opponents are numerous, so they will have to be smart. So most of the time, you will actually use the rats even against the other humans. They will be forced to do this because even she has a sling, so there is some action sequence. It's not only about the rats. Sometimes, it's daylight chapter with only humans.
Yeah.
But when there is rats, most of the time you have to be smart and or avoid the rats, or using lights, or sometimes using Inquisition. To attract the rats and to kill the Inquisition and generate a pass as well.
Yeah, so since the stars of the game are two children, there's probably not a lot of combat, right? Or is there?
It's more about, and I would say infiltration, and there is some action. She has a sling. We will see this a little bit, actually right there. No. The sequence have jumped to another moment in the game, so you will see the sling there. She can interact with the background. In this case, she will use an ignifer ammunition in order to light up this brazier, which, as you've seen, it repels the rats. But she can also interact with the environment, for example, to break those chains. And they've made too much noise, so the guards arrives. And in this case, she decided to directly kill them because their lights are, in this case, indestructible. But in the previous sequence, the guard was heavily armored, so she can't actually get rid of them except by destroying their lights, and then the rats eat the guard.
Dude, it's so messed up. I can't imagine. Don't think I could think of a worse way to go than being eaten alive by rats.
Yes, that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty cool. Yeah, so the gameplay is less about combat. It seems to be more about like environmental puzzles, figuring out a way to manipulate the environment and the enemies to create safe passage for yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, we try to obviously keep the pace. The pacing of the game right, and so sometimes it will be a more sandbox situation where there is several ways to go through. Sometimes it will be more puzzle, as you mentioned, and sometimes it's actually more action.
Interesting.
The level just after that is daylight with an army, so she will have to use her sling much more.
I see. That makes your job harder as a game designer because you don't just create like a moveset for combat to give players to use throughout the entire game. You have to constantly come up with new sort of puzzles and devices to keep the player interested, right?
Yeah. Actually, there is lots of... Sometimes you will have to... Because the idea is the rest of the world has basically adapt to the rats. They have lots of gears in order to manage the rats, and so you will use them. Sometimes you will destroy them in order to actually neutralize the Inquisition. And step by step, obviously, the game unlock new features. There is an important aspect of the game, which is the alchemy. Which will allow Amicia and Hugo to upgrade their gears, their skills, and it also have a huge impact on the story itself. I cannot tell more at this stage, but basically the more we will move in the story, the more we will realize that Hugo, as the little brother, has a much bigger role than his size can let us expect.
Do the rats, will they just strip the enemies? Like, will there just be bones left underneath when the rats are done with them?
Sorry, can you repeat?
When the rats eat someone, do they strip the skin from their bones so the only bones are left?
Oh, you want to go technical? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the interesting thing with this is that when you use the rats to kill an enemy in this game, it's practical, but as each enemy gives you back some loot, and as after the fact that they have been eaten, the rats stay on the body, so you cannot access to the loot. So there is always a risk and reward there.
Interesting.
If you find a way to kill him without the rats, you can access to the loot. If you use the rats, you will lose the loot, basically.
Yeah.
Except the fact if you come back with the light, and then you discover that dead body, but you can catch the loot he has left behind.
So in some of the shots we were seeing, it looks like other people will join you from time to time and travel with you?
Yes. Actually, there is more characters to come.
Okay.
Typically, we've seen Lucas, which is over there. And there is more fans that will join the team in their road to the I would say to the final rush in the game.
Does the player?
It will basically become a group of kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. It's building a little kid army. Is it the player's job to also keep these NPCs alive? Do you have to worry about them as well?
Yes. Yes, for sure. Basically, Hugo is way too young to understand everything which happens around him. Even if he's, again, quite important in the second half of the story, he will actually have a much bigger role. But in the first half, I would say you need to manage him. Basically, the idea is that Hugo has its own emotion, and sometimes in front of huge, like for example, in front of the rats, he can go panic. So if he panics, he will shout and call for Amicia, and he could attract the guards. So sometimes you will ask him to stay somewhere.
I'm just seeing these rats flood in through the walls.
It's a little bit claustrophobic, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I think
so. Sometimes you need Hugo to stay somewhere in order to let Amicia explore the surroundings, and sometimes you need to keep him with you in order to move forward. Otherwise, he would not be able to move. And sometimes you can also ask him to, while you are doing something, for example, he can do something for you if there is no rats around.
I see. Are you sharing the reason why the rats have become so aggressive, or is that something you're saving for the actual game?
It's part of the law of the universe.
Okay.
It's it's an alchemical thing. You know, in the Middle Age, the alchemy was somehow the science for them.
Yeah, sure.
So it comes from that. It's come from an unbalanced state of the world, where the rats actually rise because the world has been unbalanced. Yeah.
Well, plague is right there in the title, so I have to imagine it has something to do with that.
Yeah. It's
so when are we going to get to play this?
Next year.
Next year
on PlayStation 4, Xbox, and PC, obviously.
Very cool. Have you guys thought about the Nintendo Switch? Or do you think the Nintendo Switch?
It may be on one day, but right now we need to focus on the platform I've talked about.
Yeah.
Switch is too early for us. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, the game is awesome. It's like a very unique, original idea for a game.
Thank you. It was the goal. Yeah, to try to propose something different.
Yeah.
Fresh. I don't know if it's the right road, but that's the idea.
I want to play it. I hope I can play it. I hope I'm not too creeped out to play the game, because the game is very, very cool looking.
If you want to play with your fears, I think it's the right game for you.
Yeah, I think so. All right, thank you so much for coming by the IGN stage.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Yeah. Stay tuned, more to come here at IGN Live at E3 2018 after this.